Are you tired of self-doubt holding you back? Have you ever wished you could have the confidence to face your fears, go after your wildest dreams, and the tools necessary to live your best life? Hey there, amazing listeners. I'm your host and author of How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. And I've made it my mission to help you break free from self-doubt and embrace confidence. Subscribe now and join us as we unlock the secrets to unshakable self-assurance. Let's dive in. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. I am your host, Tara LaFawn Gooch, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Bobby Hulme-Lippert. He is a leadership coach, keynote speaker, and creative writer. Previously, he served 2 decades in the professional ministry, pastoring diverse congregations in Georgia, Virginia, and Texas, and serving in the United States Army. Bobby also is an award-winning storyteller, and he recently published his first book, which we'll talk about today, Small Stories About Big Things, where he helps readers discover a fresh direction, insight, and connection by way of everyday stories unfolding all around us. I love that. As a storyteller myself, I'm so excited to dive into this book with you today, Bobby. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Tara. It is great to be here. Appreciate it.
Wow. So quite a diverse background. And I've got friends actually, that have went through a similar path. They've kind of grew up in the ministry and now they're going into keynote speaking and authoring books themselves. I can't imagine that was an easy transition for you, right? Or how did that go?
No, the short version is I think of it as kind of leaving home to find home, to be honest. I grew up in the church. I was a leader in the church for my teenage years and kind of just morphed right into being an Army chaplain and a pastor and just have been in the church for a long time in leadership positions. And the shift really came about in late 2019 when my mom died of cancer. And then everyone remembers early 2020, the pandemic. And all of a sudden, I started questioning kind of everything at sort of a soul level. And here I was a preacher, someone who helped people think about the deep stuff all the time. But honestly, those moments kind of woke me up at a deeper level to say, whoa, what am I doing with my time, with my life? No day is guaranteed. And so I went through a 2-year process of looking really hard at kind of what I was doing and how I was going about it. And what this might mean for my life. And I can get more into that transition moment. But really, it was these 2 moments, my mom and the pandemic, that really invited deeper questions. Wait, what am I really doing? And I guess I'll say for now, the thing that emerged was I was starting to realize I was exhausted a lot. And I thought, oh, okay, it's COVID weariness. And it was some of that, but it was also the exhaustion of trying to be someone I wasn't. The longer I was in ministry, the more I was becoming the robe, the clergy robe, the more I was becoming what everyone wanted and expected. And I was sort of losing Bobby. And so this became a journey of how to discover myself again.
I love that. You've got all of these amazing things that you're doing right now. You just published this amazing book. It's very well received. You're speaking on stage. You're appearing on top podcast. You're networking with amazing people. You're going after your purpose in an unabashed way. And I really love that because, well, it ties into confidence, doesn't it?
Yes,
right?
It does.
Because in my experience, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to have a certain degree of confidence in order to pursue your passions, your purpose, and your real true self, don't you?
Yes, yes. A lot of what I'm doing, two thoughts on that, is pursuing this. I love this insight by a leader, thinker, theologian of the 20th century, Howard Thurman. He said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, because what the
Mm,
world needs are people who've come alive." And I feel in the last few years, I have been living more into what the aliveness rather than what I should be doing or how it's supposed to look. And that's been a game changer. But oh my gosh, it's absolutely been terrifying in the best ways, but absolutely. There is this constant little sense of what if this doesn't work, the fear, all those pieces, absolutely. And in different ways, I have discovered the gift is always stepping towards the fear. And there's
yeah,
different things that have helped me, but that's the fundamental thing.
I love that. Now, I think a lot of people can relate to that and
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that because it's not easy and
Yeah.
it does induce fear because it's the unknown. But one
Yeah.
thing you said is super, super powerful. I just want to highlight it, make sure everyone heard it. It's not about what the world needs. So I'm really passionate about
Hmm.
anti-generic business advice because there's a lot of generic business advice out there that says you have to create something that people need. And yes, that's true. I get
Hmm.
that. But what do you want? What drives you? Because you can create and give to others all day long. But ultimately, if there's no passion, if there's no purpose, if what you're doing does not leap you out of the bed in the morning and keep you going throughout the day in like a sustainable way, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to burn the candle at both ends, if you will. And ultimately, is it going to lead to a sense of fulfillment for you? Is that even something that you want to do? I think we don't ask ourselves enough what we truly want to do with our lives. We go to law school because our parents wanted lawyer children or doctor children, right? But is that even what you want to do? And I've seen so many people transition their careers dramatically. And just
Hmm.
since COVID, like you're mentioning,
Hmm. Yeah.
just in these last few years. Um, so it did take a lot of fear there. And I would have to ask, what happened before you took this leap? We talked a lot
Hmm.
about what you're doing right now, but I want
Hmm.
to take us back a little bit to a time when things were a little different for you. So, what did it feel like being in a career that didn't
Hmm.
suit your purpose?
Yes. In my case, I think from the outside, being a pastor certainly looks like something that somebody who's got things figured out at all the different levels. You've got a stable job, but you're also helping people with important things and the hard questions of life. And it was, I mean, it truly it was. But also, I was showing up more and more just tired all the
Mm,
time. And part of it has to do with the more you're in these positions, the more you end up kind of doing administrative things. You're not necessarily with the people in the same way. But all the point being, I was doing an administrative job and even doing it pretty well, but I was showing up more and more tired to my leadership. And I just kept thinking, it's got to be COVID, it's got to be burnout, it's got to be all these things. And it was all the pieces, but at a fundamental level, there was an exhaustion happening because I was constantly trying to be what everybody else needed me to be, by way of the position, by way of my people pleasing, all those things mix. And I got to cover down and be everything that everyone needs. I need to cover down and do the things that no one else is going to pick up. I'm juggling too many balls here. Give me another one. And eventually I did. I had to learn to ask that, what what do you want, and not hear that as a selfish invitation, but actually hear that as an invitation to allow my unique light to come out into this world. And so I had to really work that question with some key mentors, friends, peers, and that is where I started to breathe a little differently. There were still some fears to pursue on that journey, but it was exhaustion, I would say, was the first sign, and the constant nagging sign that something's off.
Yes, I relate to that so much. The feeling of, you wake up tired.
Yeah.
When you're aligned with your purpose and when you're doing things that your soul really is calling you to do,
Yeah.
You don't really get that tired. You want to keep going. And I often find that you have to tell me to shut it down, because I just could literally just do it all day. And I think about, what are the things that make me light up, right? Some of the things that make me light up. Well, I think I'm a natural teacher. Obviously I'm a speaker. I, have a podcast host. I'm an author, but really the core of it is a teacher.
Yep.
I don't even necessarily consider myself an author, even though I've written books. I don't sometimes even necessarily consider myself a teacher, a speaker. I really just consider it just teaching. And I found that gives me the most amount of energy when I can really mentor someone and help someone and guide them. I feel like I'm a guide on this earth. And when I do that, I feel lit up. I feel alive. I feel energetic. When I try to do administrative tasks, oh my gosh, I shut down like, ooh, immediately. Like my battery goes from here to here.
Right.
And I hired an assistant because I literally cannot do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And it's all about leaning into your strengths, and then hiring people that complement you and can handle the weaknesses of, because none of us are perfect, right?
Yes.
I love that.
So much wisdom there in terms of, sometimes I'll use with folks a joy skill matrix and talk about where your skills and your joy meet and what it is to unpack that space. And then, those other spaces where you're not as strong. What a gift that we're not all the same, that we can be a team in this and see a different level of flourishing. But you're wise to name where the spark is, and then what the support system around that allows that spark to keep living. Because you know what, that support system, they're getting their spark when offered those spaces. So it works out for everybody.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that, you have this background. I'm a very spiritual person, right? And we've talked about many spiritual topics on this show, and it's not something I shy away from, because I believe that the God that created us to live our lives based on the purpose that we have, that unique purpose. And I think it's honoring to God that we do things that we love. I don't think anyone is created to do work that they detest. I truly believe that. We're meant to live, we're meant to thrive, we're meant to do things that are purposeful. And ultimately, it's honoring to our Creator that we do things in a purposeful, joyful way. I would love to hear your thoughts about that.
Absolutely. In fact, when I first launched into this coaching and speaking, and I launched the website, the question I had on the website, and I sometimes will put it back up there, is, what if the ache is an invitation? And it's the idea that I think a lot of us go around life with an exhaustion ache, or literally knots in our stomach. And we're trying to do the right thing. Maybe we're trying to eat well, maybe we're trying to work out, but it's like, there's just this persistent, dull ache, this malaise, this thing. And my thought is, I've learned, I think the ache, because the body never lies, is an invitation from the soul. It's the soul knocking and say, hey, you've got something. You've got something. What if you risk letting it out? And again, usually, not always, but usually the invitation comes by way of some kind of ache, some kind of malaise, something we can't shake from the body. And it can be our wake-up call if we'll receive the knock. That is, in fact, the soul drawing us to really what I think is some of our best work. If we're like me, you got a music background, I learned the trumpet, you play all the notes on the page just like you see them. The ache is inviting you to play some jazz. time to learn some improv. And it's terrifying and it's exhilarating to discover how to play the notes that aren't there.
Yes, I love that. Public speaking used to be my absolute biggest fear of all time.
Yeah.
And it was truly like, I remember a point where, I couldn't have conducted a Zoom call. I was that afraid of it.
Okay.
And before I gave my first keynote, I cried in the bathroom. There was fear there.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it. I wanted to run away. I wanted to crawl inside of a hole, basically.
Yeah.
And then I did it. I stood on stage and I remember exactly what it looked like and felt like. People were leaning in, their body language, their gestures, they were interested. They were writing notes feverishly, making eye contact, asking a lot of questions. And I realized that, that biggest fear was actually part of my purpose. And that's when I started leaning into the teaching. But if I wouldn't have went through that,
Yeah.
I would have never gotten to this point. I guarantee you I wouldn't have spoken on the TEDx stage
Yeah.
less than 1 year later after doing that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have written books. I wouldn't probably be here with you right now.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was terrifying for me. But I did it. Yes. What do you think about that?
That is, well, one, I was brought back to my first sermon listening to that. I could just remember just visibly shaking behind that pulpit, holding it. So I stopped shaking and just reading the notes as fast as I could. It is terrible. And yet here I am. I'm a public speaker. This is what I do. But again, I would have never discovered not only that I could do it, but I love it. Had I not kept stepping through that space. And really, I had, all these years of speaking and all that. 2-3 years ago, I started attending a Toastmasters club and realized, oh my gosh, I've got a lot more room to grow. And it was the same kind of experience of just leaning into discomfort to find my edge. But I love that. And in my case, I've got a speaking story like yours. And then the other one was just literally when I left ministry in the formal sort of paid version of being inside of the church as a pastor. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying to name that to the leadership of the church where I was serving, and we had a good thing going. And I explained that I think I need to take some steps of faith into a different kind of setting in a different kind of way. And it was terrifying not knowing quite what that was going to look like. But I have worked alongside incredible, inspiring individuals and teams in my coaching. I've been able to complete this book, do some different. None of it's possible, and it's so exciting, and none of it happens. None of it ever even remotely unfolds without walking through that terrifying fear. And honestly, I'm so grateful for that season.
Yes, it is a season of life, right? And I think there's a power in that, a personal power that kind of comes out from the deep inside of you, right?
Yes.
When you face that fear and just say, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway.
Yes.
Every time one of us does that, it's like I picture a light bulb just going off in the darkness. Every single time one of us chooses to face our fears through a lens of purpose and service, one light bulb goes off. What do you think?
Oh, I love that. And it reminds me of something you said a few minutes ago. And that is that when you start stepping towards this sense of purpose and service in a way that, really brings about that area, it has an expansive effect. I think we worry, oh my gosh, I'm just going to burn out all the more if I really go for this because I'm already doing it. When you start leaning into that direction, it has an expansive effect on your energy, a multiplying effect. It's incredible. And so the light bulb's a great image, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, it is true. And, we can amplify this light by bringing others along with us in this journey. And again, teaching That's why books are so
Yes.
powerful. Speaking is so powerful. Leading by example is so powerful, Bobby. I do want to talk about leadership because to me, personal development, confidence building,
Mhm.
it starts from within. It starts from, I call it a self leadership, right? Where
Mhm.
we're leading ourselves. And as we lead ourselves, others are watching. And, the interesting part of that is we never know how many eyes are watching. We never know who's watching or where they're watching from, but people are watching.
Yes.
And my continual prayer is, dear God, I don't have a lot of time on this earth.
Yeah.
Bring people from the north, the east, the south, the west, bring them
Mm.
to me. And I have found that people come from around the world organically. I have no idea where they came from, but they're attracted because of the self leadership concept. I'd
Yes.
love your thoughts on that as well.
Absolutely. So I think you're experiencing one of the dynamics that's always at work when people start following a sense of purpose or calling or however you want to frame that. And that is, it looks like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving the known for something completely unknown and what if and blah, blah, blah. And the second you take a step, and you have to take a step, action is central. Things start coming towards you and for you never saw coming. There is an energy at work, call it spiritual, call it the spirit, call it what you want. But there's an energy that starts to awaken as you step that direction, that starts coming towards you and for you. I know in my case, pretty quickly after I took this significant step out of formal ministry, a group of entrepreneurs came my direction, and they became my close-knit group of colleagues and friends that we meet every week to just walk this journey together. And that came toward, and then those initial coaching clients that didn't come because I had really cool things to say about leadership tips and tricks. Sure, I could talk about all that stuff. I realized that those started to come because they saw my story, they heard my story. And it was the story itself that was somehow relating to where they were and their story. And again, these pieces all started happening, but it was not so much me hustling. Yeah, it's hard work. Don't get me wrong, to start a new chapter. But along with all that hard work, there is this kind of energy that starts coming towards you. It's amazing. I even for a season kept what I called a receiving journal, just be sure I caught all the things that were coming towards me that I didn't plan, because that's one of the more exciting pieces about this kind of journey.
Wow. Well, receiving is a huge part of, manifesting the reality that we want, because
Yeah.
I do believe that, opportunities are always coming to us. Are we receptive to them when they come? Right.
Mm.
And I think about
That's
all
good.
the people that my mom, for example, growing up, she would pray for money to come into our lives. But then when someone tried to give her money, what would she say? Oh, no, no, thanks. I don't
Yes.
need that, right? Well, how else is it supposed to come to you except from through other people?
Yeah.
So it's about being receptive when good things come into our lives and allowing them to enter. It
Yes.
sounds so simple, but honestly, it's so true.
It is. Honestly, with the coaching clients I work with locally, I do a lot of it on hiking trails. And in part for this very reason, because I think once we get outside of ourselves and into nature, and nature just naturally has a connective way about it, a receptive way about it. It knows its interdependence just
Yeah.
organically, right? Just intuitively. I find that to be one of the really inspiring aspects of like just doing some coaching along the hiking trails is no matter how the conversation itself goes, there's this quiet piece going on the whole time about both of us on the trail remembering the gift of connection, of receptivity. I find that I never leave the same in the best possible way from after being on a hiking trail like that, just because I remember somewhere deeper than just knowledge how important it is to receive and have that kind of posture.
Absolutely. Which may not be easy if you're coming from a ministerial background because you're used to giving, 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 right? So I would actually like to hear your thoughts on that
Um,
too.
Yes. Oh man. I think this is true in a lot of leadership capacities, where I've seen this in leaders in healthcare and other nonprofits where there's a strong service DNA somewhere in the organization, and church has that, and you can just absolutely give forever and then just be depleted, especially if you're a people pleaser. You just want everyone to be taken care of just so. What I noticed in my own ministry is that people would say that my best sermons were always about grace, which is about receiving free gifts, gifts we don't deserve. And basically, the thesis there is that we often preach on. If we don't preach, we speak on, we write about. Typically, the things that we ourselves need the most. And so often my preaching was communicating this need for, I need to know what it is to receive grace, to receive all the gifts that are coming to me, because I am in a position where I'm giving, giving, giving. And so it's sometimes interesting to listen to ourselves, our writing, our speaking, to discover a little bit what people consider our most passionate pieces and what that might be saying about what we ourselves need.
I love that. So, quite a journey, right? Going from this ministry background,
Yeah.
feeling depleted, realizing that you weren't quite aligned with your specific purpose, finding what that purpose was, diving into it regardless of fear, and
Yeah.
then coming to where you are today, which is, this incredible keynote speaker, leadership coach, and author. And, I have to ask, this experience that you went through, do you think it helped you become a better coach, speaker, author, and mentor to these folks that you're working with?
Absolutely. I can tell, you talk and reflect a lot on confidence, obviously, on this podcast. And there is a kind of confidence that comes with a depth of integrity. It's the difference between music notes being played and music coming off of piano keys. And right, the right notes sound fine, but boy, the right notes with soul
Mm,
blow you away, and you will watch that piano player, that band, for as long as they're up there, because soul. Woo. You only get soul when you've gone through the hard stuff, right? When you as the band went through the hard stuff, you worked for those notes, you worked for that music. Same thing with coaching, speaking, writing. If it has any sense of glow to it, any sense of strength, any sense of, oh, this, I want to get around this, I want to feed off this energy, this is some good stuff, it has to have gone through the mess, the ugly, the valley, the trial, and in fact may very well still be there in some ways. But that's where its integrity lies, is knowing that. And so a lot of times I talk with leaders and I say, I know you want to tell the shiny story about you and your organization. We were awesome, and then we got better, and then we got amazing. I'm saying, if you can tell the valley story, if you can be vulnerable,
yeah.
then you've got the magic for connection. And so, yeah, it's everything to have those stories, and then to harness the gift of them.
Yes. And it is such a gift. I believe that there's someone out there right now praying for you to share your story. They're praying for it so they feel less
Yeah,
alone, so
yeah,
that they feel like they have a guide, and a way out of their situation. And, if
yeah.
we don't share our stories, our vulnerabilities, our authentic, path that we went on, we're not answering that person's prayer. And I take that very
Beautiful.
seriously. And that's why I shared my story in my TEDx talk. It was not comfortable. I didn't really want to do it. I felt a moral obligation to do it. That's the difference. And that's leadership.
Mm, that is good. And there is, gosh, I love that prayer you have for others. There is such healing, such power in telling our stories. Yeah, it's terrifying, it's vulnerable, it's uncomfortable. And yet speak about walking through the fear. That's where it's at. There is so much power and healing, and others need it when they hear that.
Yes. And as a leader of an organization, it's so key. Again, nobody wants to hear how great the company is, how great the leaders are. I want to hear what the leaders have been through, right? How they got to their positions. What was it like before they came into that role, right? Because that's where you get the alignment. That's where you get that string of authenticity, and that vulnerability connects you to that person. And the more we try to pretend, because a lot of it is pretending, that we're untouchable, right? The more we will continue to be perceived as untouchable, the more our people will not be able to relate to us, and the less they will want to work with us and for us.
Yes. And especially in this age of disconnect and isolation and loneliness, all the challenges we face. Anything we know is helping build connection and even belonging. That's magic. So yeah, vulnerability.
I love that. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming to the show today, Bobby, for sharing your story. I would love for you to cap us off with how we can get a hold of you, where we can buy your book. I already have one. It's great. I've got it right here. But for everybody that doesn't have your book yet, let us know what the best places are to reach you and buy your products, please.
Sure. My website has everything. My initials, bhl.coach. And Small Stories About Big Things is sold on Amazon. Thanks, Sarah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I will leave you a review today. It's on my list of to-dos. So I will get that to you today. Absolutely. And thank you so much for everyone who listened to this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Guys, we are climbing to the very top of personal development podcasts globally. This is huge. We're going to continue to do this. But we need your support. The best things you can do are like this. Share this with your friends, your networks, and leave a review. Don't forget to do that, because that helps more than you could ever imagine. Your reviews count, and every review that is received is gratefully appreciated. We thank you so much, and catch us next week on another episode of Grasp Confidence. Thank you. And that's a wrap for this episode of Grasp Confidence. Thank you for joining me today and investing in yourself. Remember, building confidence is an ongoing journey, and each step you take brings you closer to the empowered, fearless version of yourself that you were born to be. Don't forget to visit my website, follow me on social media, and purchase my book, which is available on Amazon. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Stay confident.